It is 2 in the morning and you are not sleeping. You are replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. You are rehearsing an argument that has not happened yet. You are running through a dozen possible futures, none of which you can control, and all of which feel equally threatening right now. Your body is in bed. Your mind is somewhere else entirely, moving fast, solving nothing. If you recognize that experience, you already understand the problem that a former slave named Epictetus spent his entire life trying to solve. And what he came up with roughly 2,000 years ago became the foundation of one of the most widely practiced forms of psychotherapy on the planet today. Epictetus was born a slave around 50 AD in Hierapolis, which is now part of modern Turkey. He was brought to Rome as property. His master was a secretary to Emperor Nero, a man known for cruelty, and Epictetus reportedly had his leg deliberately broken as a demonstration of power. He walked with a limp for the rest of his life. He had no property, no status, no physical freedom, and no way to change any of those facts. And yet, by every account, he was one of the most psychologically free individuals of his era. People traveled from across the Roman world to hear him speak. The question that drove his entire philosophy was simple and urgent. If you cannot control your circumstances, what can you actually do about your own suffering? His answer was one of the most useful ideas in the history of human thought. Epictetus opens his handbook, the Enchiridion, with a distinction so clean it is almost surgical. He wrote, "Some things are in our control and others not. Things in our control are opinion, pursuit, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever are our own actions. Things not in our control are body, property, reputation, command, and, in one word, whatever are not our own actions." Read that list carefully. Your opinions, your desires, your choices, your responses, these are in your control. Your body, your reputation, what other people think of you, whether you get the job, whether someone texts back, whether the meeting goes well, none of that is in your control. Not fundamentally. You can influence some of it, but you cannot determine it. And here is what Epictetus noticed. Almost every form of mental suffering comes from treating the second list as if it were the first. Think about what overthinking actually is. You are not just thinking. You are grinding away at something you cannot resolve, because the thing you are anxious about is not actually in your hands. Will they approve of you? Will it work out? What will people say? What if something goes wrong? Every single one of those questions is aimed at the uncontrollable column. And because those things genuinely cannot be resolved by thinking harder, the mind keeps spinning. The loop never closes. You cannot think your way to a conclusion about something that depends on other people, on luck, on the future. So you just keep going, exhausting yourself on a problem that was never yours to solve in the first place. This is where Epictetus pushes deeper into the part that is genuinely unsettling. He argues that it is not external events that disturb us, it is our judgments about them. He wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things." Thus, death is nothing terrible, else it would have appeared so to Socrates. But the terror consists in our notion of death, that it is terrible. That is a radical claim. He is not saying your problems are not real. He is saying the suffering you feel is produced inside your own mind by your interpretation of events, not by the events themselves. The email that made you spiral for 2 days did not contain anxiety. Your mind generated the anxiety by judging the email as threatening. The presentation you have been dreading for a week has no power to disturb you on its own. What disturbs you is the story you are telling yourself about it. And unlike the presentation, the story is entirely in your control. Now, you might be wondering why this sounds familiar. There is a reason. In the 1950s, a psychiatrist named Albert Ellis was looking for a more effective way to treat anxiety and depression. He had trained in psychoanalysis, which tended to dig through childhood and the past for years at a time, with uncertain results. Ellis found himself reading the Stoics, and particularly Epictetus, and what he realized was that the core mechanism of psychological distress was not buried in the unconscious. It was sitting right at the surface, the irrational beliefs we attach to events. His new approach, which he called rational emotive behavior therapy, was built directly on the Stoic insight that it is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. A decade later, Aaron Beck developed cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, now the most widely researched form of therapy in the world, using the same foundational principle. The idea that sits at the center of modern mental health treatment was written by a Roman slave 2,000 years ago. So, what does the practice actually look like? Epictetus was not interested in theory without application. He wanted people to be able to use this immediately in their ordinary lives. The third great line from the Enchiridion gives the practical target. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. That is the goal, a tranquil flow, not the absence of difficulty, not a life where everything goes your way, a life where your mind is not constantly at war with reality. And the path to it is a specific shift in what you are wishing for. Stop wishing the uncontrollable would change. Start accepting it as it is, while directing your energy entirely toward the part you can actually move. Here is the exercise, and it is simple enough to run in real time. The next time your mind starts to spiral, ask one question. Is this in my control? Not, can I influence it slightly? Not, would I prefer it to be different? Is this, in the strict sense, within my power to determine? If the answer is no, then every minute you spend thinking about it is friction against something immovable. You are not solving it. You are just wearing yourself down. The Stoic move is not to stop caring. It is to redirect. Identify the one part of the situation that is actually inside the controllable column. Your response, your preparation, your attitude, and put all of your attention there. Then let the rest go. Not because it does not matter, but because holding it will not help and releasing it will. This is harder than it sounds, because the mind does not automatically sort things into the two columns. We are wired to treat uncertainty as a problem that thinking can fix. Evolution built us to run threat simulations constantly, because for most of human history, thinking through dangers in advance was genuinely useful. The environment today is very different. The threats are mostly social and abstract. The job interview, the relationship, the reputation, and thinking about them harder does not make them safer. It just extends the suffering. That is why you need the question as an active filter, something you deliberately run, especially when you feel the spiral starting. Someone did not respond to your message. Is that in your control? No. You can send one follow-up. That is in your control. You have a medical test coming up. Is the result in your control? No. Preparing your questions for the doctor, taking care of your health today, that is, your mind wants to rehearse the worst outcome. Redirect it to the one thing you can actually do. Epictetus lived that principle in circumstances that would break most people. A slave with no freedom, no possessions, no safety, who managed to build an inner life so stable that Roman emperors sent their sons to study under him. His freedom was not legal or physical. It was the freedom of a mind that had clearly sorted what it owned from what it did not, and refused to let the second category destroy the first. And the strange, clarifying thing about his approach is that it is not an attitude. It is a skill. It gets sharper with practice. Every time you catch yourself overthinking, ask the question, identify what is actually in your column, and redirect. You are exercising something real. You are training the mind to stop fighting the world and start working with what it actually has. If this gave you something useful, subscribe, because every week we bring one Stoic idea into sharp focus. Next time, we look at amor fati, the Stoic practice of not just tolerating what happens, but genuinely embracing it. The idea behind one of the most powerful mental shifts Marcus Aurelius ever made.